Hi, I'm Scoot, and welcome to the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. I'm glad you're with me. Hope you're having a good day. So, I want to spend a little time. This is another episode of The Truth Behind the Microphone. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I do a radio talk show in New Orleans on WWL 870 AM, 105.3 FM, and you can pick it up anywhere by downloading the app radio.com and type in WWL. And I'm on the air Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. That's 1 to 4 New Orleans time, Central Time. And I would like to think that I'm not a typical radio talk show host. I am not a conservative talk show host. I get a lot of praise, a lot of support for that, but I also get a lot of criticism. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. I just have never had a problem being honest about President Trump. And I don't think that supporting President Trump is the thing that you need to do to be a member of the Republican Party, or the thing that you need to do to prove that you're a conservative. There are conservatives and there are Republicans who don't like Trump. Now, there's a group that loves Trump. They're conservative, they're Republican, they love Trump. But that's not all conservatives and all Republicans. And I'm a registered independent, radical moderate, and just really proud of who I am. I vote for the best candidate, and I'm not afraid to be honest about Trump. Not everybody wants to hear honesty about Trump, but I think he's pretty much revealed who he is in these last couple of weeks. Well, really, since the election, he's really proven who he is, especially in this last week or so. So anyway, I don't want to get into that now, but I just wanted to let you know who I am. So I've been in radio a long time, and I've seen radio change over the years. I did music radio for a long time. Started out as a morning disc jockey, and I say started out as a morning disc jockey because usually people, usually you're a morning disc jockey because you're like really good, and you've got a following, and they put you on in the morning because that's prime time on radio. No, when I first started on FM. They put me on in the morning. I think this was 1973. Yeah, I'm that old. They put me on in the morning because I was so inexperienced. I was so bad. And nobody listened to FM in the morning. So let's put Scoot on in the morning. And I had been really not a full producer, but I had been the producer of a show called The Bob Ruby Show on WWL, which was on 870 AM. And so here, I've got this full-time job now, and they put me on in the morning. See, FM at the time was popular at night and in the afternoon. Midday, not so much. Nobody was listening in the morning. Everybody was listening to the AM stations. And that's where all the radio personalities were, in the morning. Well, I figured out, without knowing that anybody else in the country was doing this, didn't know of anybody doing this, I decided that, okay, I'm going to do a personality-driven morning show in the morning on FM. Because I figured that people are not going to care if it's AM or FM if you just do a show that they like. That proved to be the case. So that proved to be a very innovative thing on FM radio. And, it was just the early years of FM were kind of crazy. One of the first things that happened was there was a Playboy Playmate of the Month. I'll never forget her, Laura Mish. And she was from New Orleans. And so one day I was talking about her being in Playboy magazine. And here's this, Laura Mish is a Playmate of the Month, and she's from New Orleans. She called into my show, and I'm like going, whoa, this is so awesome. I mean, I was like this young, inexperienced. And so like I talk about this person, boom, she calls up. Well, she started calling up on a regular basis. And so look, in some ways, this was kind of instant credibility. And then when it got to be around Mardi Gras time, I decided that I really kind of just made this up. I just kind of made it up. didn't really expect it to be anything. But I said, Mardi Gras Day, we're gonna march in our underwear. I mean, if you can't march in your underwear on Mardi Gras Day, when can you? So I created the crew of underwear. And I was talking about it on the air, and the official instrument was the kazoo, and we had this song that was put together. I think some of the audience helped us write this song, and I wrote it as well. And it was to God Bless America, but it was God Bless Our Underwear. Shorts that we love. Anyway, it was to the tune of that. It was a mock cover of God Bless America, God Bless Our Underwear. So that was all part of it. And then we were going to throw, instead of beads, we were going to throw red beans and rice, which we did. And I just talked about how we were going to walk through the court of the crew of underwear. Mardi Gras Day, I get off the air and walk out on the balcony of the station, which was on the edge of the French Quarter. And there's like 1,000 people out there, most of them in their underwear. And two guys built this crew of underwear banner that was like this 8-foot pair of purple boxer shorts. I don't even know where the banner is now. But it was amazing. I had no idea that was going to happen. But those were kind of fun things that, we did early on FM. And then, there were other things as well, but FM was like totally different. And the reason I'm talking about this, the reason this came up was Friday afternoon on my radio show on WWL. I played this National Lampoon Radio Hour from the past that really shows what radio was like, what FM radio was like in the early years. And Bill Murray plays the part of Mel Brewer. And I'll tell you where you can find this too, because it's really funny as hell. I heard Stephen Colbert make reference to it the other night, and I'm blown away because I thought I was the only one that knew about this, because I have played it on my show in the past. It's Mel Brewer. It's Mel Brewer's Insomnia Time with Ron Fields. And, this was an overnight, this was a mockery of an overnight FM show. And, back in those days, FM was like, okay, we're back. I'm glad you're with us here on WGBG or whatever the station was. And, we're back here. We're back with Ron Fields, who is a talent scout, and he discovers bands. And so, Ron, what do you have for us now? What have you discovered now? I mean, everybody, like, especially in those days, people sounded stoned on the radio, and some of them really were on FM. Some of them were really stoned. It was all part of the ambiance of FM. I never did a show like that. And again, I did the morning show for many, many, many years. And that just, I don't know, that's not a way to start your morning. I mean, it would have been like really crazy. But it just made me think about what FM radio used to be like. And it was just totally, totally different. I mean, we played vinyl records, and sometimes the record would skip. I mean, I remember I'd go to the bathroom and come back in, and the song's skipping. So you just got to deal with it right there. Or sometimes, there were times I queued up the wrong song. One time I queued up the wrong song, and it was the Rolling Stones' Some Girls. And it had the F-bomb in it. And oh my God, I thought it was going to be fired. Well, everything worked out okay. I guess nobody heard it or nobody complained, but yeah, it had the F-bomb in it, but I never got in trouble over that. I did get in trouble over going to a Miss Wet t-shirt contest here in New Orleans, and I've told that story before. I'm gonna hold back on that, and I'll tell that story again another time. But as it turned out, the radio station was wrong to fire me because they actually promoted the Miss Wet t-shirt contest, which top management didn't even know about. So I ended up getting fired. I ended up suing them, getting enough money to hold me over, and boom, I got picked up by another station almost right away. And then my career really took off. So I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to me, Miss Wet t-shirt contest. Turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me, because that's when my career really started to to take off. I got into a debate in public media with an announcer on an AM station here, and he was on his show saying that I didn't have the right to say the things that I was saying on the air, and I told him I did have the right. I mean, look, this was long before Howard Stern, but I was taking radio to the limits in the early years. Relative to those times, it was kind of crazy. For example, during the in the 70s, during the campaign between Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, it was the morning of the debate. The debate was going to be that night. And I said on the air that, and look, again, this was a long time ago, so different times, but this was, in the context of those times, this was outrageous. But anyway, I thought it made sense. And I mean, I, could say it. It wasn't really like obscene or anything. But I said, so if Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter are debating tonight in front of a mass audience, that makes them mass debaters. Boom, general manager calls, kicked me off the air. I was off the air for 3 days. I finally came back. But again, that's nothing today. But it was a big deal back then. And I had this girl call me from the bathtub. One morning, a girl called me from the bathtub. Her name was Tammy. So she became Tammy in the tub. And every morning she would call me from the tub. She's splashing around. And I don't even remember what the hell we talked about. I really don't. But there was Tammy in the tub. And look, it was fun. And, in the early years of FM, the station was a classic. Well, no, it really wasn't just, we played a lot of, well, actually, it wasn't classic rock at the time because it was just rock. I mean, Yes, and Led Zeppelin and Grand Funk Railroad, those were not classic rock songs back then. Those were like rock songs. So it was just a rock station. But I mean, there were songs that were like, I think I'm Your Captain by Grand Funk was 9 minutes and over 9 minutes long. So I'd put that on and I'd go downstairs and like get coffee at the coffee shop or go to the bathroom and come back. So there was time to do all of that. The other interesting thing is the station at night, I think it was 11 o'clock. It was album hour. And we would track the entire album. And I mean, it was just, but those were the years when it's like, all right, so tonight we're going to be tracking the entire new Yes album. We're going to track the whole thing tonight, starting at 11 o'clock. And we'd play a new album would come out. We'd play it on the air, one side, take a commercial break, and then play the other side. And people would record that because life was a lot different then. You couldn't just download music and you couldn't find music anywhere you wanted. But if a new album would come out, we would feature it on Album Hour and people would record the album. So they had the recording. So it was really kind of a cool thing. But, that's what FM radio was like back then. The other thing is, at some point the FCC got involved and there was a rule change. But when I first started on FM doing the morning show, I used to make a lot of phone calls. And I would call. Now, this was before phones are like they are today. I mean, everybody's got their phone, and calling around the world is no big deal. In the mid 70s, getting on the air and calling Rome or Paris or London or Tokyo, that was a big deal. I mean, it was the kind of thing that people go, oh my God, can you believe Scoot called the Prime Minister of Tokyo today? He called Japan. I used to call the White House. And obviously, the president's not going to come to the phone, but it just kind of sounded cool to have the phone. And the White House would answer. This is the White House. And I go, hi, this is Scoot. And I'm on the air on a radio station in New Orleans. And I know that today is the president's birthday. And I guess it would have been, let's say it was Gerald Ford or Jimmy Carter. And I just wanted to wish him happy birthday. Can you connect me? No, the president, we can't connect you directly to the president. I said, well, look, let me just leave a message. Just leave a message that Scoot in New Orleans called to wish you happy birthday. So it sounded cool. And then I would call Buckingham Palace on the Queen's birthday, and the same thing would happen. They'd pick up the phone, Buckingham Palace, and say, "Well, I'd like to speak to the Queen. My name is Scoot. I'm on a radio station in." Okay, so then it changed, and the FCC said you have to get permission before somebody says hello, and that just sucked. That just ruined it. Because see, if I had to get, if I had to tell them off the air before they even said hello that they were on the air, then it ruined the whole bit. The other thing that I used to do is I went around the city and I collected payphone numbers, and I would call payphones live on the air. And you'd be surprised how many people picked up a ringing payphone. That was fun because you never know who was going to pick up the phone. And you could just do all kinds of crazy things with them. You'd have to tell them they were on the air. And then the FCC said, before somebody even says hello, before they even answer the phone, you have to let them know they're on the air. Well, that ruined all that. So anyway, those were the early years when it was just really kind of loose and crazy. And by the way, this guy, the guy, it was on the air in New Orleans. Keith Rush was the name of the guy on the AM station it was a traditional news talk station, and he was very critical of things that I was talking about on the air. And I argued with him through the media that I had a right to do what I was doing because I wasn't saying any bad words. I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't using profanity. If I made you think about something with a double entendre, well, hey, so what? So that was an interesting time. And, again, I think back on those vinyl records, and I just think back on the formats. It was a lot looser back then. I mean, in Morning Drive, I'm playing, Stairway to Heaven. I'm playing Roundabout by Yes. And these just long songs. And it was awesome. I also remember back in those days, and I had this awareness of the audience that if there was a big traffic jam on the interstate coming into town, I would say on the air, look, we've got a big traffic jam on the interstate. So if you're expecting somebody to be at work or to be at a meeting, chances are they're going to be late. So they're late, not because they're lazy or hungover. They're late because they're stuck in this traffic. Because nobody had a phone in their car to call somebody. So I would pass the word on, being aware that these people are listening. And I want the word to get to their bosses that, hey, they're not being lazy. They're just stuck in traffic because there was no way to contact people back then. You used to have to actually get out of the car and go to a payphone. Yeah, we used to put like a quarter in the phone to make a phone call. Can you imagine that? Here's a comment. A Riders on the Storm was played on the hour when it rained. Paul, that is absolutely true. That was another thing that I did. I still do it today on my talk show. I use music as bumper music on my talk show. And the music that we use going in and out of breaks is an integral part of the show. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time every day to lay out that format, to work that out with the cue times and everything. And I work with my senior studio producer, Ian Hoke, and he does a great job. I give him the cue times, and so the lyrics can hit at a certain point. So music has always been a big part of what I did. But I remember when it was raining, I would always play Riders in the Storm. And I would do things like that would relate to the audience. Here's a comment. I rode a motorcycle and worked construction, so I would go back to bed. Well, yeah, I mean, if you ride a motorcycle and you work construction, you ain't going to work that day. Here's a comment that says, vote for who you're compatible with, not for the letter behind the name. Oh, that was earlier when I was talking about President Trump and Republicans and Democrats. Yeah, that certainly is true. And as a registered independent, I vote for the best candidate. I've voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats. I was a registered Republican for much of my life, and then the Republican Party totally turned on me. Yeah, totally turned on me. And it's interesting because, like, weeks ago, I was talking about this split within the Republican Party, and now I'm starting to see more and more stories and more people talking in the national media about the great split, the great divide within the Republican Party. And it's the Trump supporters versus the other people who are conservative and Republican but don't support Trump. On my radio show, we call them rats. Republicans against Trump. Because, you can be against Trump and still be a Republican and still be a conservative. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you some of the interesting things about FM radio in those early years, because it was really different than it is today. And I know for many of you, it's just impossible to believe that they would put the guy who had the least experience, the guy who was the worst, just starting out, they would put him on in the morning. That was me, because nobody listened in the morning in the early mid 70s. So I'm very grateful that I still have a great career. I love what I do. Now, look, there are days that are tough, especially now with all the stuff that's going on, with all the hate and all the judgment and everything. There are days that I'll have a tough day. I mean, I get off the air, I'm exhausted. And the mental fatigue manifests to physical fatigue. So I'm wiped out after the show. But look, I mean, you may work hard too. So, you may be wiped out at the end of your day as well. I'm still doing the show, and I'm doing this social media here, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram from my apartment in downtown New Orleans. I've kind of set up a studio here in my apartment in downtown New Orleans. This is a corporate protocol for the company I work for. The hosts are doing their shows, and DJs with the music stations are doing their shows from home. And so to follow that protocol, I've kind of built up a little studio here in my apartment, got a nice mic and lights and got some stuff. And so continue to do the show there. So, my travel time to work is going from my sofa right there to right here. It doesn't take long. And yes, I am wearing pants. In the beginning, man, there were so many people that would call the radio show wondering, am I wearing pants? Yes, I'm wearing pants. I am dressed to do the show. Okay. I don't know why people were so intrigued with that. But I'll be back. I think I'm going to make a schedule of being live on YouTube Saturdays, Mondays, and Wednesdays. I may pop on before then. And by the way, I have there's some shows that are on here that are about 30 minutes long. In one of the shows, I interviewed a stripper from a club on Bourbon Street here in New Orleans about the crusade to raise the age of strippers from 18 to 21. And that was a really enlightening conversation in a lot of ways. I talked to a guy who is tall and, well, he looks totally straight, but he's gay. And that was an interesting conversation because some people think I'm gay and I'm straight. So it was kind of the gay versus straight stereotyping. And then I did an interview with Amanda Shaw, who is pop, rock, country, Cajun fiddle player, singer, songwriter here from New Orleans. And that was fun. So those shows are there. We'll have some more shows coming up, and we'll have graphics, and we'll have stuff. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be doing these shows like this, and just share some things that I can share with you. And I like to let you know some of the things that are happening behind the microphone. So this is part of our continuing series, The Truth behind the microphone. So I want to thank all of you for joining me here. I hope you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, it's free. Subscribe to the channel. We give you an alert every time we do something new, and we will start ramping this up significantly this week. And you could always suggest something that you want me to talk about. I'll always take that into consideration as well. I'm Scoot. Thank you for joining me here on Scoot on the Air YouTube.